Final hour, moving the chain, Sirius XM NFL Radio. We're going to kick it off talking about some of the top talent that'll be playing in the Spiral Tropical Bowl down in Daytona, Florida, scheduled for January 13th. So let's go out to the guest line and welcome in Tropical Bowl president and owner Michael Quartey. He's also the director as he looks forward to this game every single year in Daytona. So, Michael, Jim Miller, Pat Kerwin, moving the chain, Sirius XM NFL Radio. Thanks for joining us, Mike, to talk about this game.
Jim, appreciate it. Definitely excited to have it. Pat.
Mike, a little history for the listeners on, and it's not that old. It hasn't been around a while, but how it started, why it got started, and where you are today with it. Then we'll get into the rosters and everything else that you want to talk about. But it's a good chance for you to talk to a literally 100% football crowd right now.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. There's not many times you get this opportunity to talk about our game. Not everybody knows about it, but we're definitely getting put on the map, and we've been around 4 years. So definitely want to go over history and whatever else I can share with your listeners.
Well, absolutely. Well, when you look at it, obviously a ton of NFL scouts are paying attention to this game. A lot of NFL teams, there are probably a lot of even Canadian teams come down to talk about it. But just talk about the NFL influence, and a lot of the players have gotten drafted, and certainly a ton of players, I think 110, I was reading, ended up on NFL rosters since the inception of the Tropical Bowl.
Yeah, it's actually last year we had 3 players drafted, which was our kind of record year. We've had almost 200 guys go to NFL camps. Obviously players that make rosters, it fluctuates, but a ton of guys have gotten opportunities at the next level. And it's definitely been a big deal for guys who maybe don't get invited to the Senior Bowl or the East-West Shrine or the NFL PA Bowl. They get an opportunity to showcase themselves in front of NFL scouts and NFL personnel and GMs and even the Canadian Football League scouts and the like.
Mike, how do you find your players? How do you go out? Do you have a scouting staff? Do you tell me how you locate your guys? I mean, players are dying for an opportunity, and you're selling opportunity, which is always a nice thing to do. But how do you find them? Yeah,
actually, we have a number of scouts that are on staff. Some former NFL scouts like Ken Mall, who scouted for 13 years with the Browns and the Jaguars, and Fritz Pollard, Scout of the Year. Jerry Hardaway was with the Arizona Cardinals for 26 years, scouted guys like Anquan Bolden and the like. And then we have some regional guys who kind of go out there and find the talent, whether it's from scouting or online or Twitter, just watching games and doing all the old school scouting stuff and some of the new stuff. We're a little bit unique and aggressive in that manner.
Good.
Well, in terms of, much like we just had on Jim Nagy of the Reese's Senior Bowl, rules of the game, can you blitz? And, how is it set up in terms of the coaches and maybe the rules? Because I assume you want to promote the more one-on-one matchups, much like the NFL scouts are looking for.
Definitely. The practices leading up to the game, we try to keep the playbooks fairly vanilla. It's more about showcasing the players and less about the coaches trying to win, even though we have competitive guys like Jim Collins and Todd Littlejohn. But you can blitz, but we limit the blitzing to 1 per every 4-down series. So obviously you can still get some action, but obviously the quarterbacks and the linemen and the like can still get a look. Obviously they've only had 3 or 4 days to practice together. So.
Well, that was my next question about practice. Are they padded practices? Do you have 1, 2, 3 padded practices? How much when the scouts get in there? What are they going to get a chance to see during the practice week? Yeah,
we actually pretty much do what most of the other games do, helmets, shoulder pads, and we do a padded practice, 1 padded practice usually, depending on the coach. They do a lot of one-on-ones. It's a big deal, obviously, for scouting and the like, to get those guys or wide receivers versus D-backs, quarterbacks throwing the ball, linemen going one-on-one versus each other. Is a big deal for the scouts. And then just general team and individual drills and really just evaluating those guys' character, obviously, to make sure they're a fit for their clubs.
Well, in terms of how the teams are broken up, and much like for competitive purposes, is it broken up north, south, east, west? I mean, how do you break up the teams from that standpoint? Or is it by conference? How do you end up tallying up and making up those rosters?
Actually, myself and a couple of staff members actually go through. It's not north-south or east-west. We actually just try to make the rosters It's fairly as competitive as possible on both sides. And we've had some really exciting games, some high-scoring games, some games that came down to the wire. So many times, obviously, depending on conferences being strong versus weak, or East versus South, or what have you, not always it's always the balance. But our games have been fairly fun, some pretty exciting games to watch.
Talk about your facility and some of the cooperating organizations, Chamber of Commerce, who's ever getting involved to help support the game. I think that's always important too.
Yes, as you know, All-Star games are, it can be a tough business to run, but we've had some really good support here. We're in Daytona Beach. The Daytona Beach CVB, Convention and Visitors Bureau, has been helpful. Daytona Stadium, our hotel partner, Daytona Beach Resort, and we're just excited. We run several games here a year, some small school college games from the FCS Bowl and the National Bowl earlier in December back in Daytona. So it's kind of been a fit for us to bring our games here, multiple games, and get that support of the area and the community.
Well, give us an idea. I assume, are you set up much like the Senior Bowl where it's just seniors? I mean, they can have, obviously, some juniors that have graduated, but how is in terms of the rosters and how they're set up? Is this mostly seniors, I would assume? Yeah,
our roster is set up only seniors. Depending on if they've been cleared by the NFL, juniors, like you said, have graduated and deemed good to go for the NFL draft and can be seen at All-Star games. That rule could be a little bit, we just have to make sure of that with guys. But all these guys are seniors, mostly FBS players, and, they're just ready to come and go at it from all around the country.
Do any of them go on to another bowl game? I've noticed in the past, I remember when we drafted you, Douglas, he started out in a smaller bowl, and he played so well that the Senior Bowl picked him up and brought him over there. Does that happen to your guys? Could it happen to your guys?
Yeah, we haven't had anybody go to the Senior Bowl, but we have had a number of guys each year go up to the East-West Shrine, which obviously the week after ours, and also in Florida, and obviously a great opportunity for those players to get moved there. So we have had, each year we get a couple of guys that will get picked up by them, and different bowls and the like. We've definitely been able to continue to get some great talent. So a lot of the teams are looking, and a lot of the bowls obviously, and hey, there might be some good guys on the rosters.
Well, that's it sounds great leading up to the game. And how is that for follow through on game? I know some bowls have had the issues with maybe the players will practice all week for the scouts, and a lot of times those GMs they'll take off on game time and just watch the film of the game. But for players to participate in the actual game, how is the turnout from that standpoint? Hopefully, it's outstanding, like you said.
Yeah, we actually get a pretty good turnout. Considering our game is early on Sunday, January 13th at Daytona Stadium, and what happens is most of the scouts are heading after that. There's some top-level scouts, obviously, to the Shrine, but our game is early enough that we actually get a pretty good turnout with scouts who many times, yet, like you said, watch the practices and we'll see the tape of the game, the actual game. We actually end up getting a good amount of scouts that stick around and watch the game and scout, and, for us, that's a big deal. And obviously, we benefit from being down here in Florida as well. So.
Well, you've had your sleeve rolled up for a couple of years now. You got this thing working. That it goes on more than 1 year, I think, is really a statement about you and the understanding of how to do this. So I wish you good luck with this thing. No, I know how to run. Some of these events are hard to run. For you to do what you're doing.
Definitely. I definitely appreciate that, and definitely appreciate coming on here and giving us some type of exposure. And as you know, it's difficult to run and stay open, but we've been going into our fourth year this year, so we're excited about sticking around.
Well, and enjoy the game. We'll look forward to it. We appreciate your time, Michael. He is
appreciate you.
Yep, Michael Quartey.